The gunshot echoed across the empty parking garage. Jasmine Washington clutched her stomach, blood seeping through her fingers as she stumbled backward. Vincent Castellano stood 10 feet away, the pistol still smoking in his hand. His face twisted with rage and something else, something that looked almost like grief. "You really thought you could leave me?" His voice cracked. "You really thought I'd just let you walk away?" Jasmine's back hit the concrete pillar. Her legs gave out, and she slid down, leaving a red smear on the gray surface. Her vision blurred. The cold concrete beneath her felt almost comforting as her body went numb. "Vincent, please," she whispered, tasting copper in her mouth. He walked closer, standing over her now, the gun hanging loose at his side. "I loved you, Jasmine. I would have given you everything. And you chose this." Her eyes fluttered closed. The last thing she heard was his footsteps walking away, echoing in the vast emptiness of the garage. Then silence. Then nothing. But that was 3 years ago, and Jasmine Washington was very much alive. If you're already hooked and want to see how she pulled off the impossible, hit that subscribe button right now because this story is about to get wild. Drop a comment telling us what you think you would do in her situation, and don't forget to like this video. Now, let's rewind and see how a brilliant woman outsmarted the deadliest crime family on the East Coast. 4 years before that parking garage, Jasmine Washington was a 24-year-old accountant with a brand new CPA license and student loans that kept her up at night. She was brilliant with numbers, the kind of person who could spot a discrepancy in a 1,000-page ledger in minutes. Her professors at Columbia had called her gifted. Her mother had called her their family's golden ticket out of poverty. When the job offer came from Castellano Import-Export, she thought her prayers had been answered. $80,000 a year, full benefits, and a corner office in Manhattan. The man who interviewed her, a silver-haired gentleman named Robert Castellano, had been charming and professional. "We need someone with your skills, Miss Washington," he'd said, sliding the contract across his mahogany desk. "Someone who can organize our finances, help us expand legitimately. We're a family business looking to go corporate." She'd signed without reading the fine print. That was her first mistake. The first 3 months were normal. She managed accounts, processed invoices, tracked shipments of olive oil and wine from Italy. The numbers were clean, the business seemed legitimate, and her coworkers were friendly enough, if a bit secretive about certain aspects of the operation. Then came the day she stayed late to finish a quarterly report. The office was empty, or so she thought, when she decided to cross-reference some shipping manifests with the actual delivery records. That's when she noticed it. Pattern. Shipments that weighed significantly more than their declared contents. Payments from shell companies in the Cayman Islands. Cash deposits that had no corresponding invoices. Her hands had trembled as she pulled up file after file. Money laundering. It was textbook money laundering, and she'd been helping them do it without even knowing. "Working late, Miss Washington?" She jumped, nearly knocking over her coffee. Vincent Castellano stood in her doorway. Robert's son. She'd only met him twice before, always from a distance. He was younger than his father, maybe 40, with dark hair graying at the temples and eyes that seemed to see everything. "Just finishing up some reports, Mr. Castellano." He walked into her office, closing the door behind him. The click of the lock made her blood run cold. He sat on the edge of her desk, too close, and looked at her computer screen. "Find anything interesting?" She should have lied. She should have closed the files and smiled and said something about inventory discrepancies. But the fear had frozen her tongue, and the silence stretched too long. Vincent smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're smart, Jasmine. That's why we hired you. But now you know too much." He leaned closer. "So here's how this works. You're family now. You keep doing your job, you keep your mouth shut, and you keep getting paid. Very well paid. Or," he let the sentence hang in the air like a noose. "Or," her voice was barely a whisper, "or we have a problem. And I don't like problems." That night, Jasmine went home to her small apartment in Brooklyn and threw up until her stomach was empty. She thought about going to the police, but what would she say? That she'd been unknowingly laundering money for the Mafia? She'd lose her license, probably go to jail herself. And even if she didn't, Vincent Castellano didn't seem like the kind of man who let witnesses walk away. So she stayed. And the money did get better. Her salary doubled, then tripled. She moved to a nicer apartment, paid off her student loans, sent money home to her mother. And every day she died a little bit more inside. The real nightmare began 6 months later. Vincent started paying more attention to her. He'd stop by her office with coffee, ask her to lunch, make comments about how beautiful she looked, how intelligent she was, how she was wasted on just accounting work. "You could be so much more, Jasmine," he'd said one evening, his hand resting on her shoulder just a moment too long. "With me, you could have everything." She'd made the mistake of being polite at first, of not wanting to offend the man who could end her life with a phone call. But her politeness had been taken as encouragement, and Vincent's interest had grown into an obsession. His wife, Sofia Castellano, had noticed. Sofia was a beautiful woman in her early 50s, elegant and cold as ice. She'd cornered Jasmine in the bathroom at the office Christmas party. "Stay away from my husband." Sofia's reflection in the mirror had been perfectly composed, but her eyes were murderous. "I've dealt with women like you before. They don't end up well. Mrs. Castellano, I'm not interested in your husband. I'm just trying to do my job." Sofia had laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Do you think that matters? Vincent wants what Vincent wants. And when he's done with you, he'll throw you away like trash. If I don't kill you first." Jasmine had gone home that night and cried until dawn. She was trapped, caught between a crime boss's obsession and his wife's jealousy, working for an organization she knew too much about to ever leave alive. Then, 2 months later, everything got worse. Vincent had called her to a late-night meeting at one of the family's warehouses. She'd thought it was about the books, some discrepancy he wanted explained. Instead, she'd walked into a nightmare. 3 men were on their knees in the center of the warehouse, their hands zip-tied behind their backs. Vincent stood before them with several of his associates. One of the kneeling men was crying. "Mr. Castellano, please, it was a mistake, we didn't mean to." "You stole from me, Marco." Vincent's voice was calm, almost conversational. "You thought I wouldn't notice. That I'm stupid." "No, boss, never, we just—" The gunshot made Jasmine scream. Marco slumped forward, blood pooling beneath him. The other 2 men started begging. Vincent turned to Jasmine, who stood frozen in the doorway. "Come here." She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "I said, come here, Jasmine." Her legs carried her forward on autopilot. She stopped 10 feet away from the bodies. "I brought you here for a reason," Vincent said, handing his gun to one of his men and pulling out a handkerchief to wipe his hands. "You need to understand how serious this family is. What we do to traitors, to people who betray us." He walked toward her, and she had to force herself not to run. "You're one of us now. You've seen too much. You know too much. There's no leaving, Jasmine. Not ever. Do you understand?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Good. Now go home. And remember what you saw here." That night, Jasmine Washington decided she had to die. Not actually die, of course. But Jasmine Washington, accountant for the Castellano crime family, had to cease to exist. The question was how. Witness protection was out. The FBI had approached her once. 2 agents in cheap suits waiting outside her apartment. They'd offered her immunity, a new life, safety. But she'd seen enough true crime documentaries to know that witness protection wasn't foolproof. The mob had long arms and patient memories. Besides, testifying meant reliving all of this in court, meant years of trials and appeals, meant always looking over her shoulder. No, she needed something more permanent. Something that would make Vincent Castellano believe, beyond any doubt, that she was gone forever. The idea came to her at 3 in the morning, during one of the many nights she couldn't sleep. She'd been scrolling through news articles about cold cases, about bodies found in rivers, about the forensic difficulties of identifying remains that had been in water for days or weeks. And suddenly, the pieces started clicking together. She needed a body. Not just any body, but one that could reasonably pass as hers. The DNA would be degraded by the water, the features would be distorted. The medical examiner would be looking to confirm an identity, not question it. If everything was set up right, if every detail was perfect, it could work. But where do you get a body? The answer came 3 weeks later. At a cancer support group she'd started attending under a fake name. She'd gone looking for someone, though she'd hated herself for it. Someone with her build, her general features, someone who was already dying and had no family, no one who would ask questions. Teresa Martinez had been sitting alone in the circle, a thin woman in her mid-40s with a scarf covering her bald head. After the meeting, Jasmine had approached her. First time, Teresa had asked with a tired smile. Yeah, I'm still processing everything. They'd gotten coffee. Teresa had been so open, so willing to talk. She had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live, maybe less. No family. Her husband had left her when she got sick, and her parents were dead. She was drowning in medical debt, would die in agony, probably in some charity ward. I just wish I could leave something behind, you know? Teresa had said, staring into her cup. Some mark that I was here, that my life mattered. But there's nothing, just debts and pain. Jasmine had seen her opening, but it took 2 more meetings before she'd worked up the courage to make her proposal. They were in Teresa's tiny studio apartment, and Jasmine had finally said it. I have a way you could help someone. Help me, and I could make sure your last months are comfortable. No more worrying about bills or treatment. You could have everything you need. Teresa had looked at her with those sharp, knowing eyes. What kind of help are we talking about? Jasmine had told her everything. The mob, Vincent, the impossible trap she was in, and the plan, the terrible, desperate plan. You want me to die as you? Teresa had said slowly. You're dying anyway. I'm sorry, that sounds cruel, but it's true. This way, your death means something. You'd be saving my life, and I'd give you $500,000. You could spend your last months in comfort, or you could donate it all to charity, or send it to someone you care about. Whatever you want. Teresa had been quiet for a long time. Then she'd said, How would it work? Are you still with us? This story is about to get even more intense. If you're enjoying this, smash that like button and leave a comment about whether you think Teresa made the right choice. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now because we bring you the most captivating true crime stories every week. Now let's see how Jasmine pulled off the impossible. The plan took 3 months to arrange. 3 months of meticulous preparation, of studying forensic science, of bribing the right people, of rehearsing every detail until it was perfect. Jasmine had started by siphoning money from the Castellano accounts. Small amounts, untraceable, funneled through cryptocurrency and offshore accounts she'd set up. $500,000, extracted so carefully that no one would notice until long after she was dead. She'd studied decomposition rates in water, how the river's temperature and current would affect tissue degradation. She'd researched how medical examiners identified bodies, what they looked for, what could confuse them. Most importantly, she'd made connections. A morgue attendant with gambling debts who could be persuaded to be sloppy with evidence collection. A funeral director who'd take cash to expedite things and not ask questions. Teresa's friend, a woman named Maria, who'd agreed to play the role of Jasmine's cousin and identify the body. Teresa had spent her last months in a luxury apartment Jasmine had rented for her, with round-the-clock care and all the pain medication she needed. They'd become friends in a strange way. Teresa said she felt useful for the first time in years, like her death would finally mean something. I'm already gone, she told Jasmine one evening, her voice weak from the morphine. This body's just a shell now. If it can give you your life back, then it's worth something after all. The night came in mid-January, during one of the coldest weeks of the year. Teresa had 3 weeks left, maybe less. Any longer and the plan wouldn't work. Jasmine had staged it perfectly. She'd been seen at her office that day, acting nervous. She'd left her phone at home with location services on. She'd taken a cab to a rough neighborhood in the Bronx, paid cash, used a fake name. Teresa was waiting in the predetermined spot, in a car Jasmine had bought under a false identity. They dressed her in Jasmine's clothes, styled her wig to match Jasmine's hair exactly. In the dark, at a distance, she looked enough like her. "Are you sure about this?" Jasmine had asked one last time. Teresa had smiled, that peaceful smile of someone who'd made peace with death. "I'm sure. Do it quick." The shot had been clean. Teresa hadn't suffered. She'd slumped over immediately, just as they'd planned. Jasmine had loaded her body into the trunk, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the steering wheel. The East River was black and freezing. Jasmine had driven to a spot she knew the Castellano family used for disposing of inconvenient problems. She'd put her wallet in Teresa's pocket, along with her ID and credit cards. She'd even scratched Teresa's arm with her own keys, leaving her DNA under the nails. Then she'd rolled the car into the river and watched it sink into the darkness. 3 days later, the body was found. The morgue attendant she'd bribed did his part, mishandling the evidence just enough. The decomposition and water damage made facial identification impossible. The DNA was degraded but showed markers consistent with Jasmine's ethnicity and general profile. Maria identified the body, crying appropriately. Jasmine's mother, devastated and not told the truth, confirmed details about Jasmine's life and schedule. Vincent Castellano himself had come to the funeral. Jasmine watched from a distance, hidden behind dark sunglasses and a hat, as he stood over the closed casket. She saw the moment his shoulders sagged, saw something that might have been genuine grief cross his face. He'd thought he owned her, possessed her, and now she was gone. The look on his face told her the plan had worked. That night, Vincent threw a party, not celebrating her death exactly, but marking the end of a problem. Sophia was smiling again. The organization moved on, and Jasmine Washington disappeared forever. She'd spent the next 3 months moving carefully across the country, using false identities, staying off cameras, leaving no digital footprint. She'd settled in Portland, Oregon, about as far from New York as she could get while staying in the continental United States. She became Keisha Brooks, a freelance graphic designer. She rented a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood, made friends with her neighbors, adopted a cat named Shadow. She cut her hair short and dyed it a different color, started wearing glasses she didn't need, changed her walk, her mannerisms, her speech patterns, and slowly, carefully, she started to live again. The first year had been the hardest. Every police siren made her heart race. Every dark sedan that drove too slowly past her apartment made her check the locks 3 times. She had nightmares about Vincent finding her, about waking up to find him standing over her bed. But gradually the fear faded. Not completely, never completely, but enough. Enough to let her breathe. Enough to let her smile without it feeling fake. Enough to let her start believing she might actually be free. She made friends. Real friends, not the guarded acquaintances she'd had in New York. There was Sarah, her neighbor, a nurse with a wicked sense of humor. Jake and Linda, a couple who ran the coffee shop where she worked on her design projects. A book club she joined. A yoga class every Tuesday morning. And then there was Marcus. She'd met him at a community garden where she'd volunteered. He was a 3rd-grade teacher, with warm brown eyes and laugh lines that suggested he smiled a lot. He was kind and funny and genuine, and when he'd asked her out after 3 months of their friendship growing, she'd said yes before she could think about all the reasons she shouldn't. Their first date had been coffee and a walk through Forest Park. He'd talked about his students, the funny things they said, his dream of writing children's books someday. He'd asked about her life, and she'd given him the carefully constructed backstory she'd prepared. Grew up in Chicago. Parents died young. Moved around a lot. No siblings. The lies came easier now, but they still tasted bitter. 6 months into their relationship, Marcus told her he was falling in love with her. They were at his apartment cooking dinner together. She'd frozen in the middle of chopping vegetables, the knife still in her hand. "You don't have to say it back," he'd added quickly, seeing her face. "I just wanted you to know. You're special, Keisha. I've never met anyone like you." She'd put down the knife and kissed him, because she couldn't say the words, because saying them back would make it real, and real things could be taken away. But the truth was, she was falling for him too. Maybe had already fallen. and that terrified her more than Vincent Castellano ever had. 3 years into her new life, Jasmine had almost convinced herself she was safe. The nightmares came less frequently. She'd stopped checking over her shoulder every 5 minutes. She'd even started to think about the future, about maybe telling Marcus the truth someday, about maybe really building a life here. Then she walked into Jake's coffee shop on a Tuesday morning and saw him. Tommy the Knife Ricci, Vincent's enforcer. The man who'd been standing in the warehouse the night she'd witnessed those murders. He was sitting at a corner table with another man she didn't recognize, talking in low voices. The cup she'd been holding slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. The sound made Tommy look up. For one heart-stopping moment, their eyes met. His gaze passed over her, then moved on, returning to his conversation. He didn't recognize her. Why would he? Keisha Brooks looked nothing like Jasmine Washington. Different hair, different style, different everything. And she was supposed to be dead. You okay, Keisha? Jake was behind the counter, concern on his face. Yeah, sorry, just clumsy today. She forced a smile, backed toward the door. Actually, I just remembered. I have a call I can't miss. I'll come back later. She was in her car, driving aimlessly, before her hands stopped shaking enough to grip the wheel properly. Tommy Ricci, in Portland. Couldn't be a coincidence. But he hadn't been looking for her. He'd been meeting with someone, conducting business. She drove to the public library and used one of their computers to research. It didn't take long to find the answer. Portland had its own organized crime families. Not as big or as powerful as the Castellanos, but they existed. And apparently they had connections to New York. For 2 days she debated what to do. Run again? But she'd built a life here. Had friends. Had Marcus. And where would she run to? How many times could she start over before there was nothing left of who she really was? Maybe Tommy being here had nothing to do with her. Maybe she was safe. Maybe she was overreacting. She wanted so badly to believe that. The grocery store was crowded that Saturday afternoon. Jasmine, still thinking of herself as Keisha, was in the produce section, debating between different types of apples, when someone bumped into her cart. Sorry, The young man stopped mid-apology, his eyes widening. Miss Washington? Her blood turned to ice. She knew that face. Dante Castellano, Vincent's nephew. He'd been just a teenager when she'd worked for the family, brought into the office occasionally, learning the business from his uncle. He was older now, mid-20s, but she recognized those same sharp features. I think you have me confused with someone else. She tried to move past him, but he grabbed her cart. No, You're supposed to be dead. We went to your funeral. I saw Uncle Vincent cry. His voice was rising, attracting attention. How are you? She ran. Abandoned her cart and ran through the store, pushing past other shoppers. She heard Dante calling after her, heard his footsteps following. She burst through the exit and into the parking lot, fumbling for her car keys. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped them. She bent to pick them up and saw Dante emerge from the store, phone already to his ear. She could hear him even from across the parking lot. Uncle Vincent? You're not going to believe this, but I just saw. Jasmine got into her car and drove. She didn't know where, just away. Her mind was racing, trying to calculate how long she had. An hour before Vincent heard? 2? How fast could he get people to Portland? Her phone buzzed. Marcus. Hey beautiful. Still on for dinner tonight? She wanted to cry. Instead, she texted back. Something came up. I'll call you later. She went to her apartment, looked around at the life she'd built. The plants on the windowsill. The photos on the wall, her and her friends, her and Marcus. Shadow meowing for attention. 3 years of peace about to be destroyed. She had maybe 48 hours before the Castellanos locked down the city. Maybe less. The safe behind her closet held everything she needed. 3 fake passports. Cash. Bank account information for money she'd kept hidden. She'd always known this day might come. Had always kept an escape plan ready. But this time was different. This time she had people she cared about. People who might be in danger because of her. She pulled out her phone and called Marcus. Hey, what's up? Everything okay? I need to talk to you. In person. Can you come over right now? Keisha, you're scaring me. What's wrong? Please, Marcus. Just come. He was there in 20 minutes. She opened the door and saw the worry on his face, and something inside her broke. I need to tell you something, she said, pulling him inside. And after I tell you, you're going to hate me. But you need to know the truth. We're at the turning point now. If you're on the edge of your seat, drop a like on this video and comment below what you think Marcus will do. Will he understand? Or will he walk away? Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this. Let's find out what happens next. Marcus sat on her couch, his expression shifting from concern to confusion to disbelief as she told him everything. She started from the beginning. The job with the Castellanos, the money laundering, Vincent's obsession, the murders she'd witnessed, and finally how she'd faked her death. My real name is Jasmine Washington, she finished, her voice hoarse from talking. I'm not who you think I am. I never was. And now they've found me, and I have to run again. Marcus was quiet for a long time, staring at his hands. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. You lied to me. About everything. I'm sorry. I never meant to drag you into this. I never meant to fall in love with you. The words were out before she could stop them. But I did. And now I have to leave to keep you safe. So that's it? You're just going to disappear. If I stay, they'll kill me. And probably anyone close to me. I can't risk your life, Marcus. I can't. He stood up, paced her small living room. There has to be another way. We could go to the police. And tell them what? That I faked my death to escape the mob? I'd go to jail, Marcus. And Vincent would just wait for me to get out. Or have me killed inside. There's no protection that can keep me safe from him. So you're going to run forever? I'm going to survive. That's all I can do. Marcus turned to face her, and the pain in his eyes made her want to take it all back, to have never told him, to have just disappeared and let him wonder. I love you too, he said quietly. I've loved you for months, and now I find out you're someone else entirely, and you're leaving, and there's nothing I can do about it. She crossed the room to him, took his hands. I'm sorry, for all of it. You deserved better than lies. He pulled her into his arms, held her tight. I still love you. God help me, I still love you. Jasmine or Keisha or whoever you are. I love you. They stood like that for a long time, until Jasmine's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I know you're alive, Jasmine. We should talk. Alone. Tonight. The address below. Come or I start visiting your friends. Her entire body went cold. Marcus read the message over her shoulder. Don't go. It's obviously a trap. If I don't, he'll hurt people. You, Sarah, Jake. He'll tear the city apart looking for me. Then we go to the FBI. There's no time, and I don't have any evidence anymore. I destroyed it all years ago, thinking I'd never need it. She pulled away from him, went to her safe, started loading money into a bag. I have to meet him, but I need you to promise me something. Keisha, Jasmine. Promise me that if I don't come back, you'll go to the police. Tell them everything I told you. They won't be able to do much, but at least it'll be on record. And promise me you'll leave Portland for a while, just until this blows over. I'm not letting you face him alone. You don't have a choice. She was at the door when he grabbed her arm, spun her around, kissed her like it was the last time. Maybe it was. Come back to me, he whispered against her lips. I'll try. The address Vincent had sent was a parking garage downtown, the kind that was mostly empty at night. Of course it was. He had a flair for the dramatic, and parking garages were private, echoey, intimidating. Jasmine arrived at midnight. Her car was the only one on the 5th floor, except for a black SUV parked near the elevators. Vincent stood beside it, alone, his hands in his coat pockets. She parked far enough away to make a run for it if needed, but close enough to talk. She got out of her car slowly, her hands visible. Jasmine Washington. Vincent smiled, but it was cold. You look different. I almost didn't believe Dante when he called. I thought he'd seen a ghost. What do you want, Vincent? He walked toward her slowly, like a predator that knew its prey had nowhere to run. What do I want? I want to understand. I mourned you, Jasmine. I actually mourned you. I thought you'd been killed, caught up in something you couldn't handle. I blamed myself. He was closer now, 20 feet away. And all along you were laughing at me, playing me for a fool. I was never laughing. I was terrified. You wouldn't let me leave, Vincent. You gave me no choice. No choice. His voice rose, echoing off the concrete. I gave you everything. Money, protection, a place in my family. And you faked your death rather than accept what I was offering you. You were offering me a cage, a life of looking over my shoulder, wondering when your wife would finally kill me, or when you'd get bored and dispose of me like you disposed of everyone else who knew too much. I would have protected you from Sophia. You shouldn't have had to. I didn't want your protection, Vincent. I didn't want you. I just wanted to be free. He was 10 feet away now. She could see his hand moving inside his coat. Freedom. That's an illusion, Jasmine. We're all trapped by something. Money, power, love, fear. You thought you could escape, but here you are, right back where you started. She swallowed hard. If you're going to kill me, just do it. But leave everyone else alone. They don't know anything. About everything. That teacher of yours? Marcus, is it? Yeah, we know about him. Nice guy. Shame. Terror spiked through her. Vincent, please. Relax. I'm not here to kill you, Jasmine. Well, not yet. He pulled his hand out of his coat, but it was empty. I'm here to make you a deal. What kind of deal? You cost me a lot of money, disappearing like that. The money you stole, plus the money I spent cleaning up your death, plus the revenue lost while I was distracted. I figure you owe me about $2 million. I don't have $2 million. Then you'll work it off. Come back to New York. Work for me again. 5 years and we'll call it even. After that, I'll let you go. I'll even set you up with a new identity. Somewhere nice. She stared at him. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? You're brilliant, Jasmine. I've had 3 accountants since you, and none of them are half as good. The business needs you. I need you. And if I say no? His expression hardened. Then I stop being reasonable. I know where your mother lives. I know about Marcus, about your friends here. I know everything, Jasmine. You have 48 hours to decide. Come back willingly, or I start taking things from you. People you care about. Until there's nothing left but you and me. He turned and walked back to his SUV. I'll be in touch with details. Don't try to run. I'll find you. I'll always find you. The SUV drove away, leaving her alone in the parking garage. She stood there for a long moment, her mind reeling. 5 years. 5 more years as Vincent's prisoner. Watching him, terrified every day that he'd change his mind and kill her anyway. 5 years of looking over her shoulder, of being the woman she died to escape from being. Or she could run, and watch everyone she loved die because of her. She got in her car and drove back to her apartment. Marcus was waiting outside, pacing. What happened? Are you okay? She told him about Vincent's offer. About the impossible choice. There has to be another way, Marcus said again. Like if he said it enough times it would become true. There isn't. I have 2 days to decide between slavery and watching you all die. Then we go to the FBI now. Tonight. And tell them what? That I faked my death? I'll go to jail, Marcus. At least you'd be alive. At least we'd have a chance. She looked at him. This good man who'd gotten caught up in her disaster of a life, and made her decision. Okay, let's go to the FBI. The FBI field office in Portland was a bland concrete building that somehow managed to look both imposing and bureaucratic. At 2 in the morning, it was mostly empty except for the night staff. The agent who met with them was a woman in her 50s named Sandra Vega. She listened to Jasmine's story without interrupting, her expression neutral. When Jasmine finished, Agent Vega sat back in her chair. That's quite a tale, miss. What should I call you? Jasmine Washington. That's my real name. Miss Washington, do you have any proof of what you're claiming? I can tell you things about the Castellano organization that only an insider would know. Account numbers, names, operations. That's something. But it's been 3 years. Information gets stale. And without physical evidence. Agent Vega shook her head. I'll be honest with you. The case we could build wouldn't be strong. You'd be looking at charges for faking your death, possibly conspiracy, fraud. The Castellanos have good lawyers. By the time we built a case, you'd be in prison, and they'd be laughing. Marcus leaned forward. So what do we do? Agent Vega was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled out a card and slid it across the desk. This is the number for our organized crime division. I'm going to make a call. If I were you, I'd use the next 48 hours to gather as much current information as you can. Record your meeting with Vincent if he contacts you again. Get him on tape making threats. Give us something we can actually use. He'll kill me if he finds out I'm wearing a wire. Maybe. Or maybe this is your only shot at actually being free. Agent Vega stood. Think about it. You have 2 days. They left the FBI building as the sun was starting to rise. Marcus drove while Jasmine stared out the window, exhaustion making everything feel surreal. What are you going to do? He asked. I don't know. Both options feel like death sentences. Then maybe it's time to create a third option. She looked at him. What do you mean? Vincent wants you to come back because you're valuable to him. Because you know things, can do things. That's leverage, Jasmine. Maybe it's time to use it. An idea was forming in her mind, dangerous and desperate. I need to make some calls. The next 36 hours were a blur of preparation. Jasmine reached out to contacts she'd kept from her old life, people who owed her favors, people who hated the Castellanos as much as she did. She dug through old files she'd kept hidden, copied onto encrypted drives years ago. Insurance, she'd called it then. Evidence she'd sworn she'd destroyed but hadn't. Not completely. She called Agent Vega back. I need witness protection. Real protection, not the half measures. And immunity for faking my death. In exchange for what? Everything. Account numbers, shell companies, names of every corrupt official on the Castellano payroll. Shipping routes, money laundering operations, all of it. But I want it in writing, and I want Vincent Castellano arrested before I hand over a single file. That's a tall order. That's my offer. You have 24 hours. Agent Vega had called back in 12. We have a deal, but we need you to wear a wire to your next meeting with Vincent. Get him on tape making threats, talking about the organization. Something we can use immediately while we build the larger case. Now Jasmine sat in a hotel room with 2 FBI techs fitting her with a recording device so small she could barely see it. Marcus sat in the corner, looking like he wanted to be sick. You don't have to do this, he said for the 10th time. Yes, I do. It's the only way this ends. It could end with you dead. She crossed the room to him, took his hands. If it does, promise me you'll move on. Find someone good. Someone who doesn't come with a crime family attached. Don't talk like that. Promise me, Marcus. I promise. Now you promise me you'll come back. She kissed him instead of answering, because she couldn't make a promise she might not be able to keep. Vincent had sent her an address that afternoon. An abandoned warehouse near the docks, of course. Everything with Vincent was theatrical, dramatic. She wondered if he'd always been this way or if the power had twisted him into someone who needed the performance of violence. She arrived alone as instructed. The warehouse was dark except for a single light in the center, illuminating a table and 2 chairs. Vincent sat in one of them, perfectly calm. Punctual as always, he said as she approached. I appreciate that about you, Jasmine. Let's just get this over with. What do you want? Sit, please. He gestured to the other chair. When she sat, he poured 2 glasses of wine from a bottle on the table. To new beginnings, or old ones, depending on how you look at it. She didn't touch the glass. I'm not coming back to work for you, Vincent. His smile faded. Then you've chosen death. For yourself and everyone you care about. No, I've chosen something different. I'm offering you a trade. I'm listening. I have evidence. Everything I collected over the years I worked for you. Bank accounts, shell companies, names of every cop and judge you've bought. Shipping manifests that prove trafficking. Recordings of conversations. All of it. Vincent's expression darkened. You're bluffing. I'm not. And it's all set up on a dead man's switch. If anything happens to me, if I miss checking in every 48 hours, it all goes to the FBI, the New York Times, and every prosecutor in 3 states. He stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. You're threatening me? I'm protecting myself. You leave me alone, you leave Marcus and my friends alone, and your secrets stay safe. You come after me, and you lose everything. Vincent walked around the table, and every instinct screamed at her to run. But she stayed seated, kept her voice steady. You think you're clever? His voice was low, dangerous. You think this changes anything? I've dealt with threats before, Jasmine. I've buried people who tried to blackmail me. I'm sure you have, but I'm betting you don't want to spend the rest of your life in prison. Because that's what'll happen if that evidence goes public. We both know it. I could make you tell me where it is. I have people who are very good at making people talk. Torture me all you want. It won't help. The system is automated. Only I can stop it. This was the moment. If Vincent believed her, if he bought the bluff, she might actually survive this. If he didn't, Vincent stared at her for a long moment. Then, shockingly, he laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. You've got guts, I'll give you that. More than I thought. He walked back to his chair, righted it, sat down. All right, let's say I believe you. What stops me from having someone watch you 24/7? Waiting for you to slip up? Nothing. But I've been running from you for 3 years. Vincent, I know how to disappear. You'll never know when or where I'll check in. And if your people get too close, if I even think you're trying to find the evidence, I can trigger it manually. So we're at a stalemate. We're at peace. I stay gone, I stay quiet, and you get to keep your empire. That's the deal. Vincent was quiet for a long time, studying her. The wire under her shirt felt like it was burning against her skin. You've changed, he said finally. The scared girl I knew wouldn't have had the spine for this. The scared girl you knew didn't have anything to lose. Now I have a life I'm willing to fight for. And what about your mother? Your friends? What stops me from using them as leverage? The same thing. Hurt them and the evidence goes public. You'll spend the rest of your life in a cell, Vincent. Is revenge worth that? He picked up his wine glass, swirled the dark liquid. You know what the funny thing is? I did care about you. In my own way. I thought we could have had something real. You can't have something real built on fear and captivity. Maybe you're right. He drank the wine, set down the glass. Okay, Jasmine. You win. I'll leave you alone. I'll leave your people alone. But if I ever find out you lied about the evidence, if I find out this was all a bluff, there's nowhere on earth you'll be safe. It's not a bluff. Then I guess this is goodbye. He stood, buttoned his coat. You should know, Sophia sends her regards. She actually helped you, helped you fake your death. She was tired of my obsession with you. Jasmine felt her blood run cold. What? Oh yes, the morgue attendant you bribed? She bribed him first. Made sure things were sloppy enough to work in your favor. She wanted me to think you were dead, so I'd finally let you go. Ironic, isn't it? You thought you pulled off this perfect plan alone. But you had help from the person you thought wanted you dead most. He walked toward the exit, then paused. For what it's worth, I hope you find happiness. Real happiness. Something I don't think I'm capable of anymore. Then he was gone, leaving Jasmine alone in the warehouse. Her heart pounding so hard she thought the FBI agents listening could probably hear it through the wire. She sat there for 5 minutes before Agent Vega and a team of agents burst through the doors. We got it, Vega said. Threats, acknowledgement of criminal activity, everything. We have enough for an arrest warrant. He's getting away. We have units outside. He's being arrested as we speak. And just like that, it was over. 3 years of running, 3 years of fear, ended in a warehouse with a wire and a desperate gamble. The FBI kept their word. Jasmine's evidence, combined with her testimony and the recording from that night, brought down the Castellano organization. Vincent got 25 to life. Sophia testified against him in exchange for immunity, confirming that she'd helped Jasmine fake her death. Dozens of associates were arrested. Assets were seized. The empire Vincent had built crumbled in a matter of months. Jasmine entered witness protection under a new name in a new city, not because she needed to hide anymore, but because starting fresh seemed right. The FBI cleared her of charges related to faking her death in exchange for her cooperation. And Marcus? True to his word, he waited. The FBI program allowed limited contact with approved individuals, and after a year of monitored calls and letters, they allowed him to visit. He showed up at her door in Chicago with flowers and that same warm smile she'd fallen in love with. "Hi," he said. "I'm Marcus. I don't think we've met before, but I've been told I might really like you." She laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in months. "You might. I'm told I'm trouble, though." "I like trouble." They spent the weekend walking through the city, talking about everything and nothing, building something new from the ashes of what they'd had before. It wasn't perfect. There were still nightmares, still moments when she jumped at shadows. But for the first time since she'd walked into that office at Castellano Import-Export 6 years ago, Jasmine Washington felt free. Not safe, maybe. Not completely. Vincent still had people loyal to him, people who might hold grudges. But free. Free to choose her own life, her own path, her own future. 2 years after Vincent's arrest, Marcus moved to Chicago. They got married in a small ceremony with just a few friends from her new life. Agent Vega came, gave a toast about courage and second chances. Even Sophia sent a card, a simple message. "Thank you for setting us both free." On their wedding night, Marcus asked her the question she'd been waiting for. "Do you ever regret it? Any of it?" She thought about Teresa, who'd given her life meaning in death. About the scared 24-year-old who'd signed that contract without reading it. About the woman who'd had the courage to die so she could finally live. "I regret the people who got hurt. I regret the lies I had to tell. But do I regret surviving? Never. Not even the parts with me?" She kissed him long and slow. "Especially not the parts with you." They built a life together in Chicago. She started her own legitimate accounting firm, helping small businesses get started, teaching financial literacy to people who'd grown up without it like she had. Marcus wrote his children's book. They adopted a dog to keep shadow company. They talked about having kids someday. And sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep, Jasmine would think about Vincent in his cell, about the warehouse, about the girl she used to be, terrified and trapped, who found the strength to fake her death and take back her life. Some escapes take a lifetime. Hers had taken a little death. But on the other side of that death, she'd found something she never thought she'd have again. She'd found herself, and that was worth everything. If the story moved you, if it kept you on the edge of your seat until the very end, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We bring you the most intense, incredible true crime stories every single week. Drop a comment and tell us. Would you have had the courage to do what Jasmine did? Would you fake your death to escape? Or would you find another way? Let us know your thoughts. And if you want more stories like this, check out our video about the woman who outsmarted a serial killer using nothing but her wits. Thanks for watching. And remember, sometimes the only way out is through.